Welcome to another episode of DD on the Spot. As always, I'm your host, Ryan Johnson. And our guest, if you're a longtime listener, really doesn't need any introduction. We have Hannah back on the podcast. She's coming to us from the warm state of Texas, where, again, I know people complain about how much I talk about the weather, so I'm not even going to bring it up. But yeah, what are you, 12 weeks out now?
Yes, 12 weeks out.
12 weeks out from her show. She just posted something earlier this week, and it's ridiculous. So I don't even know what she's going to look like 12 weeks from now. But yeah, it's been a year and a half since we last had her on, and she's on here to just give us an update on what she's up to and just talk health and fitness like we did last time. But most importantly, Hannah, thank you so much for coming back on.
Thanks for having me. I had a lot of fun the last time. I really liked it.
I appreciate that. That's the one thing that I take from this more than anything. I could care less whether this gets, one view or whether it just impacts someone. The fact that you make the guest have fun, that's really the end goal here because, I see some of these other podcasts and good God, I'm not even going to get into specifics, but it's that should be your number one focus. But yeah, before we get into that whole tangent and I piss off half the community, why don't you just give us an update on what you've been up to? I mean, it's been a year and a half since we last had you on.
So what has been new? Um, my, do you mean in life or training or both?
Everything, yeah. This is not just all about bodybuilding and health and fitness. We can talk about whatever you want, yeah.
Okay. So not too much. My living situation changed for the better, which is cool. Um, Still with Shelby Starnes. My training partner and my training has changed a lot. I've been getting some messages about people asking "Oh, what did you train? What did you change?" That my training partner made a huge difference. I'm going to be coming out with a calendar. I'm going to be in a book with Jay Rusevich, one of my photographers. If you follow me, you know who that is. I'll be in his book. Just, I guess, little things like that. My life is kind of boring. So,
Well, I saw you've been in some magazines. How was that?
oh yeah. So I was in Hustler, and then I was in what was the other one? It was online. I didn't actually get a hard copy magazine. Hustler sent me five copies, hard copies. It was Boodle. No, Uncovered magazine. That's what it was. Yeah.
What was that like? I mean, I don't know if I've ever talked to someone who's shot for Hustler and those other magazines because most of the people don't really get that opportunity, but you're able to do that.
It was awesome. So when they first contacted me, I thought it was a troll. I thought it was a joke, um, because it wasn't the Hustler actual Hustler page. It didn't come from that, even though they started following me. It was from somebody else that was their editor or something. And so I was I was kind of suspicious. And I was suspicious up until they actually sent me the magazine. I was like, oh, this is real. But it was cool. I used a photographer. I got to pick my photographer, and I used one of the people that I know. He's awesome. And then we submitted. They had me submit 10 images, and they chose which one they wanted, and they chose. I didn't even know I was going to be the centerfold because I'm in the middle of the magazine until it came out, and they were like, "Yeah, we didn't want to tell you until you saw it." And anyway, it was super cool, super cool.
That would be like the ultimate troll job if they had you do all that just for it to be a scam. But trust me, I even get those all the time myself. Where it's like, talk about my health company or whatever, and then you're like, dude, you're not even a member of you're just a guy with 5 followers on Instagram messaging me. So I would be skeptical of that as well. But yeah, that is incredible. That is quite the achievement. And you mentioned, before we get back into your photography and stuff, because that's a cool topic, because not that many people really do as much as you do, but you mentioned that your training's been different because of your partner. How has your training routine really been different?
So I got with so okay. Here's what happened. And I won't go too much into it because it's a little bit personal. But I was training with somebody, um, and we'd been training for, I want to say 8 years together, maybe 7, 8 years together. Yeah, he was my training partner, and um, some things happened, and I just uh, cut him out of my life. I kind of had to, and so when I started training by myself, I was like, I really need a training partner, and I was training at a local gym here, and I was like, okay, I need I need a training partner like I used to have because my workouts just weren't the same. Um, and so I contacted him, the guy that we had met a couple times unofficially, where like he'd come up to me a couple times and be like, "Oh, you're jacked, it's awesome," or whatever. And he was the biggest guy in the gym. So I was like, you know what? And I knew he trained people, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to him, see if he'll train me a couple times a week. Um, and so I messaged him, and he was like, "Hey, I'll do you one better." He was like, "Do you want to be my training partner?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do." He's super smart, and he trains people, and he's competed before, and he could again if he wanted to. And so anyway, long story short, he is what a lot more. So my previous training partner, the one that I kind of cut out of my life, he was never a competitor. He was a power lifter for a long time, but he never did bodybuilding. He never did anything like that. So our training styles were really different, and they had to be. But at the same time, not saying that he was a bad training partner. It was just different. We needed different things, and I didn't realize how much that affected me. You know, almost not training like a bodybuilder, almost training like a powerlifter, was really not serving me. Um, and so when I started training with Jake, which is my new training partner, everything changed. And he was like, you know, better at spotting me overtraining, better at spotting certain things I needed to fix. Just having that eye. And funny thing, I don't know if I talked about it last time. I used to have really bad insomnia. A weird side effect of changing my training and training with somebody that can recognize when I'm going too hard or too long or whatever I'm doing, my insomnia is gone. Yeah.
Hey, that's a good problem to have. So did it happen all of a sudden, or did it just slowly go away?
It slowly went away. I noticed because when I talked to you a year and a half ago, um, I would be tired, like, I would be super, super tired, exhausted, my body would be tired, but, like, it's like my brain wouldn't stop, and it was like my body just wouldn't let me go to sleep, and then once I started training with Jake, it was, like, slowly I'm like, "Man, I'm getting more tired," like, earlier in the day. Once I actually get in bed, like, I'm wanting to go to sleep for once, whereas before I had to take a bunch of melatonin, I was prescribed things that, I didn't wanna take, um and so now it's to the point where I can literally be like reading on my phone and wanting to stay awake to read whatever I'm doing, and I'll just fall asleep. Yeah,
Must be
it's nice.
nice. Must be
It's
nice.
nice.
Good God, that's hey. I might have to do that. So yeah, because I was gonna say you did kind of have a little bit more of a power lifter ish look to you, like before, like when I was talking to you. So things really change up. But this last year and a half, what would you say is the one area of your physique that you've improved the most?
Um, I I think my arms and my hamstrings, I would guess. They still need to come up, but Jake and I have only been training together for less than 6 months, and so I'm excited to see because my body is really liking the new training style, and it's mostly I'm training just as hard. It's just he can spot when I'm the term they use like stimulation versus annihilation. I was going in the gym and feeling like if I didn't annihilate everything, I wasn't doing a good job. And he knows how to go, hey, like stop, you're done. Like the set is done, you're fine. So he's retaught me kind of how to effectively go to failure, but not go to annihilation, if that makes sense.
Was that hard to retrain yourself mentally because you've been stuck in that for such a long period of time?
It was because I felt like for the first like month, I felt like I wasn't training hard enough. But then once my body start like really once the insomnia like corrected itself, I was like, okay, I'm doing something right because now I'm able to recover better. I'm able to push harder in the gym, and everything kind of just fell into place. So, Jake, if you're watching this, look, don't get a bigger head, but thanks.
That's the only problem with doing some of these episodes is because yeah, like some people they compliment them so much where I was like, okay, you don't want them to all of a sudden be like, okay, I'm charging you double or something like that, or just do like like, hey,
Yeah.
since I'm doing so well. But you talked about training partners, and that is one of the hardest things to find. And I mean, even in college, I struggled with finding a training partner where actually I'm the exact opposite, where I just told people, like, stay the hell away from me. Like, don't even come near me. That's my time to really just decompress and deload. So don't even be within 5 feet of me. Don't even talk to me. But a training partner is just so important. And finding one, like we talked about, is one of the hardest things. But what to you makes a good training partner? Because everyone has a different definition, just kind of like finding a good coach, but it's different. But in your definition, what is a good training partner?
Yeah. That's a good question because, like you said, they are really hard to find. I thought that I did, and I'm not saying he was a bad training partner. The person that I was training with before, it was just different. Like he had no intentions and no interest in bodybuilding, and he was very much a powerlifter. So, like in my head, I kind of was like, oh, well, we can still get good workouts, and I didn't really want to change anything because he'd been my training partner for so long. But now that I have switched, I can see how much it was kind of not that he was holding me back, it was just because we didn't have the same goals. To me, I think that having a training partner that has the same goals as you and knows kind of like what areas you need to improve and is knowledgeable, you know, um, as well as like someone that like you have to click, right? You have to like he knows uh what it looks like when I have more in the tank, like if I can keep going or if I'm just and I don't know really how he does that. I kind of do the same thing for him too. Like I can kind of tell maybe it's faces, I don't know. But I can tell when he needs an extra push and when to like back off and be like, okay, he's got it. So you got to so I would say 3 things. 1, having the same goals. 2 is getting along and, like, having the same training style. And 3 like, having a good connection as far as, like I don't wanna say the same personality type, but kind of, you
Yeah,
know?
it's like when you meet someone you're going to be friends with them, you just have that weird sort of vibe together, kind of, where
Yeah,
you get it. Because, yeah, a lot of people assume that your training partner is going to be like a drill sergeant all the time. And it's like, no, that's not going to work out then. You have to, it's like a therapist almost, where
yeah,
God bless these personal trainers because they're basically therapists without the license. Let's be completely honest. I mean,
yeah,
yeah, so it is a lot of give and take, and it's a lot of, yeah, like you said, realizing when people have more in the tank, which is a gift. Like I said, I'm probably not that familiar with it because I always like to do it, alone myself, but that's just, I'm one of those, rare people. But yeah, that training partner, and plus it keeps you motivated too. I mean, there are days like we talked about last time when you're not feeling it, that training partner can really be a huge blessing to it as well. But is there anything that you've taken from your powerlifting style of workouts and kept in your new workouts? Because I mean, whenever someone starts something new after doing something for a long period of time, I always think part of that stays with them regardless.
yeah, we still deadlift, like, it's that's still something I love deadlifts, and thankfully that's something he really likes too. But I so we've kept that in. I don't think we're gonna go as heavy as we have in the off season, just me being in prep because he's also like I've also realized he's helped me realize that. Whereas before I would get fresh, I would be in prep and be in a caloric deficit and just no energy, but still trying to hit the same weights that I was before, and it wasn't really helping me. And so now we pick less taxing, like nervous system taxing exercises while I'm in prep. But I will still keep the compounds in there. Like I'll still keep bench press in there. I'll still keep deadlifts, squats when I'm not in such a deficit. And we just now, just like in the past week or so, we're still gonna do them, but I'm not gonna try to hit a 1 rep max at this point. You know what I mean? It's just not gonna serve me. Um,
Be that person 1 week out trying to hit their max still.
yeah, that was me. That was me, and I don't, and I think that's part of what made my sleep so terrible is because I was constantly just taxing my nervous system. And I mean, if some people it might work for, just like some people might be totally fine, like you training by yourself. I mean, even Phil Heath is like, he trains by himself, and I understand that, but I think it's different for everybody, and for me, I'm better if I have somebody there because I do have the tendency to wanna just keep going, going, going until, until I've, uh, taxed my nervous system so much where I can't even sleep later.
Again, I don't compete, so if I did compete, I would probably have to have a training partner just to keep me motivated and keep me in there. So yeah, again, that's why like don't no one just try to be like, oh yeah, Ryan says first of all, Ryan's never competed and probably never will compete because of the nutrition, which we'll get right into. But that's just yeah. So again, everyone, it doesn't it you said it's not going to work for everyone just doing it by themselves or with a training partner. You all got to, figure it out yourself, and it's definitely a journey. But the more you talk, the more I'm like, yeah, no wonder she had insomnia if you're if you're
Yeah.
trying to max out that early. So yeah, it's one of those things where you look back on it, you're like, I get it, I get it
But
now.
that goes back to the training partner I had because I was trying not to let it affect him because just because I was in prep, I didn't want it to affect his training, and so I would just kinda go along with it, which, I mean, you know, what can you do? I can't really go back in time and change it, which I think I learned from it, which I'm glad. But yeah, like you said, um, if anyone's trying to get advice on a training partner, that's really up to them. Like you like to train alone. If you like to train alone, more power to you. That's one less variable, I think. Um, but if you don't like to train alone, find someone with the same goals as you.
On the days when your training partner can't show up, do you think your training is impacted a lot, or are you still able to, you think, like get a full workout done and not really have any problems?
Actually, yesterday was one of those days where he took so no, we didn't take a rest day. Sorry, I'm getting my days mixed up. It was
She's
yesterday.
starting at prep brain. She's 12 weeks out. Good God, imagine her in 2 months.
Sorry, I don't want to imagine that. But yeah, no, it was yesterday. I ended up training in my garage. He took his wife out for a date night, and so he trained with her that day and I just decided to train in my garage. I still got a good workout, and the good thing is, when you're training with somebody with the same goals, you like now it's my norm. It's my norm to train in our style, not having to hit a one rep max for every set. So now I'm more used to it. So I'm more inclined to train the way we've been training because I've learned now that I don't have to absolutely annihilate, you know, every muscle group.
How early into your prep do you really start to feel the effects of the prep? And has it been different this prep than it has for other preps in the past?
Um, it depends. Every prep is different. It's so weird. Every prep is different. I just now, like in the past 3 weeks, I want to say, have been feeling like I'm in prep. Um, Sometimes it happens sooner. I know my last prep I did start feeling like in prep way sooner. And this time, I think it's again because of my training and my recovery is so much better. It wasn't taxing me as much. Now I'm kind of sort of like, all right, I haven't had carbs in weeks. I'm starting to feel it. But like, I'm not. When I really, really start feeling like I'm in prep is when I start waking up every couple hours. And I know like I've had insomnia, but it's a different kind of even when I had insomnia, it's different. It's like my body wants me to get up and do something. So it's like I would sleep 2 hours at a time, wake up 2 hours at a time. When I had insomnia, it was more of like I had trouble getting to sleep, not staying asleep. So when I get super deep into prep, it's my body wants to wake up every couple hours. So you imagine how bad that sucked when I did have insomnia and I was having such trouble getting to sleep and then when I did I would wake up in like 2 hours. Um, but I feel pretty in prep right now.
I mean, how do you, because I'm just imagining down the road, I mean, you're going to be what, in July, basically, you're going to be at your show. How do you deal with that, the heat in Texas in the summer when you're weeks out? Like, have you dealt with that before, or is that something new?
No, I've definitely dealt with that before. The heat doesn't really bother me. Sorry. It cold bothers me more than heat does.
Yeah. For me, it's the exact opposite, just because, again, we're on the opposite sides of the spectrum when it comes to weather wise. So, Yeah, that's yeah. I mean, plus, well, cold. You got to put. I'm starting to shed off my 10 pounds of winter weight that you got to gain every year just to survive up here. It's a
Yeah.
necessity. Otherwise, you're gonna freeze to death. But yeah, I cannot imagine. Especially, I mean, I've talked to guests in Arizona where it's like 110 degrees, like at 6 a.m. It's like,
Ooh.
oh well, you got to get up and do your cardio at 4 then if you want to go walk outside. And it's like, yeah, that sounds like a lot of fun there. But just the mentality of your just your bodybuilding journey, has it changed at all now that you've got the new training partner, and how have you dealt with just the whole mindset adaptation, because you're always evolving mentally in bodybuilding?
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it's always gonna change, like you said. I think, we're always learning new things. It has changed a little bit, um, as far as, like, what I am going to seek in, the people around me. I just learned that like, it took me so long to, um finally be selfish about this. And when I first started, there was a lot of pushback from family, from friends, and and people. Like if I started a prep, for example, and one of my friends wanted to go do something, and I'd be like, "Hey, I can't. I'm in prep," and they kind of make me feel bad about it. Like, oh, like, is it that serious? And I'm just now getting to the point where now this is my career, and I'm directly making money off of it, so now I'm able to be like, yes, it is that big of a deal, and no, I'm not going to go out, and you know, go out drinking with you. No, it's not going to happen. um, so my mindset has definitely changed, and I'm now allowing myself to be okay with being kind of selfish in this. Whereas before, I felt so bad when I needed to do something for it, and it wasn't serving somebody else. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. I mean, if I were to be making this much money, like as my primary income from the podcast, I would be freaking out every time I saw a glitch on the computer. Every time like I saw something freeze up for a second, like I would
Yeah.
be freaking out. So that's why I always tell people, if it's your passion, just start it off as a hobby at first, because then that way, like right now, like I said, I make barely anything. So like everything can go wrong on this and it still wouldn't really affect me financially. But like this is my number one source. So yeah, I can't imagine, as you turn this into your like actual career where you're just financially dependent on it. Yeah, you got to be a little bit more selfish, which by the way, that's a skill that I need to learn as well, being a little bit more selfish. So you ever figure out the correct answer for everyone, just let me know, and I'm, more than happy to answer it for you. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's always a struggle out there, but just being that you are, you're a pretty famous bodybuilder. I mean, you have a lot of followers, you have a lot of fans. How do you deal with the mental side of just knowing that a lot of people look up to you and a lot of people follow your journey? And I mean, like I said, I don't have that many followers, but if I had like your level, I don't know how I would deal with that.
Oh, I don't know the percentage of people that look up to me. That's awesome if they do. I don't really. Um, I don't know. I try not to let it affect me one way or the other, because I do get a lot of love online, and it's awesome. But I also try to keep it in the perspective of online isn't really real life. Um, and it's great, and I love that, and I benefit it, or
Blooper reel.
you're gonna leave that you're gonna leave that in there too. But no, I benefit, from it, because the more my online presence grows, the more financially, the more I make off of it, basically. But I try not to let it like get to my head. And there's like I don't think I'm like I think I'm pretty well known in the industry. I don't think I'm like a famous bodybuilder yet. I think I could
You just had
maybe
Hell
get.
Trevino follow you. I mean, that's a step right there.
That was awesome, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh my god. I was
I
on
had her on with Gita Cavallero, and yeah, it was awesome. Yeah, she's one of the originals, and she's great. Yeah.
I love her. I told my friends, I'm like, "I'm too cool for you guys now." I can't even talk to you.
Is it hard for you to separate your personal life with your online presence at all?
Not really, no.
I know some people. I only ask it because I know some people who dive so deep down that rabbit hole that like they're almost unrecognizable. You're like, dude, you got to find like other hobbies.
No, like, when people, meet me in person, the only thing that surprises them is my height. Because everyone thinks I'm so tall. I'm barely 5'2", and so when people meet me in person, like, that's the only they're like, "Oh, you look exactly like you do online," or whatever, or you're I've had people say you're exactly what I expected, just shorter.
Like I said, yes, 6'3" myself, I could bounce her like a basketball, and that's one thing that I found was hilarious when I went to my first bodybuilding show this last summer. It was just a regional show, and just everyone was so much shorter than me, and I could just like I could have my arms like resting on their heads basically, then like taking
Yeah,
photos and stuff. But yeah, it's yeah, a lot of times it's funny when you finally meet that person online because yeah, I've had times too where like people want to just like meet and then you like might FaceTime with them just to see that, and then you finally meet them and you're just like, oh, you look nothing like I expected. So it's the wonder of it all. But going into this prep, has your nutrition changed at all from other preps? Or are you still keeping it somewhat the same? Where's that at?
um, so it I'm trying to remember what I did last prep. I think we kept in carbs, more, um, this time than we did last time. I'm pretty sure we pulled carbs, like, super, super early my last show. This time we were able to keep them a little bit longer. Um, it's I mean, they're pretty low, but, I wanna say he pulled them mostly to where it's just, like it's literally, like, 20 grams of oatmeal in the morning. It's pretty sad. Like, I showed my training partner and he was like, "If somebody told me to eat that, I would just get mad." Like, it would just the small amount that you have to actually prepare and eat. He was like, it would just piss me off, but it's fine. But I believe we just pulled carbs down this low about 3 or 4 weeks ago. That's when I started, like, flattening out, which is fine, it's part of it. Like, I gotta get my head around that, but, so that's changed a little bit. We've always kinda had to be pretty aggressive with my diet. I have hypothyroidism, and so, my body is really stubborn when it comes to pulling fat, and that's always my issue is my conditioning. But hopefully we did start, um we started further out this prep, and I feel like I've dropped faster. I've dropped body fat faster. Like my body is not fighting me. I don't feel like it's fighting me this time. Whereas around here is where it would start fighting me in the past. But I'm hoping that with my training and with my recovery, how it is, that it's not going to do that. That it's going to continue to make progress.
Well, this is a question that I just came up with my last podcast, which again shows how bad I am at this, that I've done it this long. And I just finally came up with a question like this. But as you get more and more into your prep and you start to see the changes more and more, is it hard though to just be relaxed and just go with the flow on the fact that like you change so much of your life during a prep, and a lot of times you don't see the results until the very last few weeks, so like you're doing months upon months of stuff that like you aren't seeing that much of a change? Is it hard mentally to still convince yourself that like it's worth it and there will be a payday at the end of it, especially in those months when you might see just minimal change and you're just uprooting your entire lifestyle?
Yes, that is very frustrating. Um, I will say my lifestyle in prep as opposed to off prep, it's not that different. Because I'm not a huge like vacation person. I'm not a huge like I like to go out and eat at restaurants and stuff, but it's not something that I really really miss until like the last couple of weeks where I'm so hungry I miss any kind of food. But it's not super super different. So it's not like I feel like I'm sacrificing for this for little reward. But I will say what you said about months and months of like grind without seeing it, that does get to me because I'm the type of person that like I need to know I'm going in the right direction, you know? Um but thankfully this year I actually started leaning down faster than I thought I was going to. So it was like a surprise. I was like, "Oh, man, this is actually like I'm able to see what I'm working for." So that it's been a little bit easier mentally too because I've been able to see that progression more than I have in the past. So yeah, that's a good question though because that's
Every couple hundred podcasts, I might come up with another better one. It's just
yeah.
I'm a slow learner, but it goes eventually. But we gotta talk about photography now because the
Okay.
amount of photos that you take, I don't know how you store them, what you do. But the funny thing that I find about this is that people just assume that it's just so easy to take a couple photos, but they don't understand everything that goes into it. When you're thinking of stuff to post, like photography, how do you come up with it? Do you like do a brainstorming session? What's the process like for you to decide like this is what I'm gonna do for this day, or this is how I'm gonna do this pose? Like, how do you come up with that stuff?
Usually okay, the funny thing is that usually, like, the ideas that I have or that the photographer has usually doesn't end up being the photos that we use. It'll be something like, I'll turn a certain way or do something and the photographer will be like, "Do that again," and it's something that, nobody thought of, it was just he saw it in the moment. Um, but there are, like, it depends on the photographer. Like, I have a couple that always have ideas and they're like, "Hey, I want you to wear this. This is what we're gonna do." And then I have a couple that are like, "Just bring whatever and we'll see what we get out of it." And then I have like a full gallery or file in my phone of like photography ideas where I'll see something and I'll just save it and be like, "Oh, that's," or I'll see an outfit and I'll save it and be like, "Oh, I want to," you know. So there is a lot of things that go into it, but it's not always what you plan for. Like,
Of the photos that we do see, how many of them go unused? Like, what's the ratio? Is it like 1 to
oh
100,
my
1 to 10? Because like I've talked
yeah,
to some people where it's like 1 to almost 1,000. You're like, good God, how do you do that?
a lot. There's a lot of photos that you don't see. I think, um, there's been a couple where it's like we'll use, like, maybe 1 or 2, but we took literally, like, 3,000 pictures. Yeah.
Why don't you just retire right now and you're set for life? Just publishing all those other negative. Just do that like
Well,
once
because
a day.
half of them are gonna be me making a stupid face.
What is the worst photo you think you've ever taken?
Uh I don't know, there's been some pretty bad ones, but I've actually posted some of me making funny faces. I know I was a meme for a little bit, or like in my little circle of friends, like somebody, I posted a video of me and they like screenshotted it, and I was making this stupid face, and then they ended up making memes out of it.
Well, here, I'm going to show you this without saying. So I'm like the least photogenic person ever. Yeah. It's
See, that's
not.
nice. I think.
No. I've never had a good smile. It's always been weird for me. And plus, with this chin right here, I could never do what you do because this chin, I could be at 2% body fat and I would still have a really bad chin. Like, I don't know. It just must be just like a genetic thing where like people are like, oh, you're a lot like less. I thought you'd be like a little like obese or whatever. It's like, no, it's just, I can't solve it, Hannah. And it's just a
You
never
know,
ending process.
okay. You know what you do?
What?
Okay, there's a trick to it.
Hmm.
So you'll close your mouth
Hmm.
and you'll press your tongue, the top of your
Hmm.
tongue, to the roof of your mouth. Look. Mm.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So if you take a photo and you want your jawline to be more defined, that's what you
I didn't have her on just for the bodybuilding, everyone. I had her on so I could learn that, everyone. Hey, that's a trick that I will try to perfect that then over the coming weeks then as I get ready to unleash, the summer bod. And I mean, how are you dealing with the comments that you probably get? Like even walking out in public right now as you're getting ready for a show, especially, and it's going to get even worse. I'm just going to
yeah.
prepare you for it, but you already know because it's going to be summertime and you can't really be all bundled up. How do you deal with those comments? Because I think we talked about it last time, but it's just, there could just be one day where all of a sudden it turns your entire perspective on that stuff.
So there's, I would say 80% of the comments that I get are positive. Um, and then of course there's always going to be negative. That's going to be with anything. Um, in person, they're always positive. They always seem to be positive. Um, for the past couple weeks, I haven't been able to go to the store without someone going, "Oh, you're a bodybuilder. Oh, what's your training like?" Which is nice. I love it because I love talking to people. Um, online, there's always going to be those trolls. Like I've had a couple people be like, "Oh, you're still fat," or whatever. And I'm like, okay, like it doesn't bother me because
Out of
I
all
don't.
the things that they could say to someone saying you're still fat to a bodybuilder, it's got to be
I
more
think
original,
because
people.
I'm like, dude, I literally like, I don't know. I have abs. Like I know I'm not fat. I might be bodybuilder fat, but I know I'm not fat fat. Uh, but I think it's because like they know it, they think that it's gonna bother me, and it's not gonna bother me. But um, I try to keep all that stuff in perspective. Like I try not to let either get too much into my head, like the positive or the negative. because I feel like it's not productive. I've learned over the years to have the people that I trust, that I know are going to, even if it's constructive criticism. Like, I love constructive criticism, like, but it has to come from somebody that I know is their intentions are good. Like, their intentions are to help me, not to distract me or hurt me. And I can't ever tell who that is online. They might be trying to say something nice to get me to respond for their own, for their own interests. So I
It's
can't
what I did.
really.
Everyone guilty.
But no,
No, I
like,
know. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
yeah, but there's always going to be those people that are gonna try to take advantage of anybody. So I just always keep that in the back of my head. Um, and so, like, it used to get to me a lot more, especially when I first started getting a lot of followers. Is the negative stuff, and even some of the positive stuff, where people like anything I do was great. I know, like, I know that I there's stuff I definitely everyone needs to work on. There's definitely stuff I need to work on. Not everything I do is great. So I need those people in my life, and thankfully I have them to be like, "Hey, that you're doing awesome at this, but you need to get better at this." You know what I mean?
I agree 100%. And based off of what you just said, we got to talk about the two words that bodybuilders hate more than anything else: body dysmorphia. I mean, I find it hilarious myself, just because you guys are like some of the most in shape people on the planet, but then people don't understand, like, you guys still have body dysmorphia issues. Just like, I think everyone, the general public, has a little bit of form of it, but bodybuilders, it's just an extreme. And being that you are someone who, like you said, you struggle with leaning down a lot, how do you deal with the whole body dysmorphia side of things? Because I have had so many messages from guests that are just like, "Hey, do you think I look good for a show?" And it's like, you just want to just strangle them and just be like, how do you not see that you look? But again, I'm not a bodybuilder, so I don't know. Like, if half of a centimeter of your lat holds a little bit of fat in it, I don't know that. But how do you deal with the whole body dysmorphia side of things?
Embrace it, because it's never gonna go anywhere, honestly. But yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad that you bring attention to that, because when people see people online in in extremely conditioned shape, they think that, oh, this person must be super confident. They must want to walk around with, their abs showing all the time. It's not always like that. And I actually had this conversation with one of my photographers, where he was having trouble this past winter getting bodybuilders to come in, because he prefers to work with athletes. And he called me frustrated one day, and he's like, "I just don't understand it. These people, they look great, but they don't want to come in here because they're not lean enough, or they're not this enough." And I'm like, "Look, like, I understand your frustration, but you have to understand that there's always, most of the time, always going to be a level of uh, body dysmorphia in this." And so they're not doing, like, because he kind of took it personally. He's like, "Do they just not want to work with me?" And I'm like, "No, I don't think it's that at all. I think that they are just having a bout of body dysmorphia, because a lot of, we're constantly in this industry, we're constantly critiquing ourselves, or we're constantly being critiqued. So it's like, it's almost impossible not to not to have it. And so I just embrace it, and I know there's going to be certain times of the year where I kind of have to um like, step away from the mirror. And weirdly enough, uh doing what I do, and basically taking pictures for almost a living, I guess you would call it, has kind of helped it, honestly, because I can now look back at pictures and see how far I've come. Whereas before, like, I would kind of shy away from the camera. And so I never had a reference point. And I'm like, you know what? I might not be where I want, but I've still made progress. So in a weird way, being in front of the camera more, you would think it would make it worse. It actually made it better, and it made me realize, okay, well, one, it's not ever going to go away. So I just got that out of my head. I just embrace it. It's never going to go away. And I think having a small level of a healthy level is good in this industry, because then you can hopefully objectively look at yourself and be like, okay, this is not where I want it to be, but I can improve on it. You know what I mean? I think that's a healthy way to look at it.
Absolutely. If you had zero body dysmorphia at all, and you're like, check me out, you're like 40 pounds overweight, like, you'd get a rude awakening from everyone. But is there a
Yeah.
certain level of your fandom that prefers the off season look?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
I was gonna say
It's
a
like
lot of
it's
people would be
weird.
surprised because I've talked to some people and they're like, yeah, a certain percentage like actually dig the photos that are off season.
Yeah, and that's part of what's helped me, kind of not, be so hard on myself is because there's and I'd say, like, it's a big percentage, it's like 50-50 that a good chunk of the people that follow me really like the off-season look. I'm like, "Huh, okay." Like, I don't feel so bad for, eating an extra Snickers.
I mean, the only thing I would ever pay her to do is just to eat a hamburger in front of me, just so I could be like, okay, that's good. Thank God you're doing right. That's the only thing I'd be like, just send me a video of you eating a hamburger, and that's all I need. That's all I need right there. So,
I have no problem eating trash in the off-season. I love
oh yeah,
trash.
yeah. What is the one food? I hate to bring this up, but what is the one food that you are just dying to have right now?
Um, right, so every prep I crave something different. Like, it's been pancakes, it's been mac and cheese. I really just want ice cream. Like, okay, in specific ice cream. The not the sugar cones, not the waffle cones, it's like like, circular ones, like the cheap ones.
Like the Dairy Queen ones, kind of, or the
I think so. I think Dairy Queen has them
yeah.
and chocolate ice cream. That's, like, all I don't know why.
I'm not gonna lie, I had the best pancakes ever this morning. We usually do it every Saturday. I go back to my parents' house every Saturday morning, and we have pancakes for breakfast and ice cream. Yeah, I gotta have my chocolate chip cookie dough blizzard or my chocolate chip cookie dough shake. From wherever I get that probably about once every 2 weeks, just as a cheat meal. So yeah, it is. Yeah, that ice cream can be. It can be definitely be a game changer, but yeah, I mean, this is just like we talked about before, just so much more of a mental than it is, and just dealing with that is just so personal. And how have you changed up your posing routine? Have you just mixed things up? Have you gotten a new coach, or where's your posing stand?
Actually, yeah, so, did I did we talk before or after I did nationals?
It was November of 2021, so about a year and a half, almost exactly.
Okay, and I think I had already competed at that point, didn't I?
I think you did.
Okay. If it was before, so the last time I competed, it was nationals, and I did bodybuilding for the first time. So, for those that don't know, I went from figure to physique and then physique to bodybuilding. And, so at nationals, I placed 3rd, um, and I was 9 pounds lighter than everyone else. So I was in the light heavyweights, and I was literally at the bottom of the weight class. But I still got 3rd, which and it was my first time at nationals doing bodybuilding, so I was like, "I will take that." So I officially and I got feedback from the judges, and they told me, either one, 'cause that's what I wanted to know, like, do I fit physique or do I fit bodybuilding? I've always wanted to do bodybuilding, I've loved the poses, I love everything about it. I think my 2 strongest poses are, like, my front lat and my back lat, and bodybuilding has that, but physique does not. And so when I got feedback from the judges and they said, "Hey, that's your choice, you have the structure for both," I was like, "Alright, bodybuilding." And so it's changed in the sense that I'm just now exclusively doing bodybuilding poses, whereas before, up until then, I'd always done physique and bodybuilding because, like I said, I was going from physique to bodybuilding. Sorry, it's confusing. Uh,
How much more joy does it give you knowing that you can actually do arms closed as opposed to the stupid hands out
yes,
thing?
so much. I love it. I love like I can't not. That's the thing is when I was doing figure, I had to work on my smile because it was very robotic to me, and it wasn't comfortable, honestly. And now when I'm on stage doing bodybuilding poses, I can't not smile because I'm like genuinely having a good time.
Yeah.
But I did get a new posing coach. Her name is Tina. Awesome. Um, and so it's changed a little bit. Where so I think I'm working more at posing this year because it's the first time since I've been in figure that I actually have an in-person coach. And so I'm going for an hour and she's making me hold the poses and we're doing both sides. So I'm not because I had a little bit of imbalance, because they have you do your favorite side. And so I was always practicing my favorite side, and she was like, "Nope, we got to do both." Because you know, so yeah, and I'm actually really excited about my routine. So
Well, yeah, I cannot wait to see it. And one thing that I would love to talk to you about, because I made a post about it and I got a lot of good feedback on it about, just like the future of bodybuilding and things that they can do. And I mean, a lot of people aren't like you said in your message down, but like so many people aren't talking about it when it comes to, like what the sport needs, because it does have a problem sometimes with, attendance wise, or just overall just grading the physiques too. And where do you think bodybuilding can do better when it comes to either just attracting a larger audience or just being, in my opinion, healthier for the competitors? Because I just think it's going to such an extreme where bad things are going to eventually happen because of it.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right, and I think bad things have already kind of happened because of it. Um, whereas I was actually, um a point that I did wanna bring up in all this is I think the first time we talked, you asked, how I felt about, like, being a role model, and as it stands right now, I don't think I don't want to encourage people, especially young people, to come into this sport as it is right now. I don't I'm just gonna be completely honest. I think it's the way it is, the way it's going, it's dangerous. Um, it's not healthy. Bodybuilding is not healthy, and I think a couple years ago, I would have had a different answer. I would have had a different take on it and be like, "Oh, yeah," like, and been very encouraging of young people coming into it, and right now, I can't back that up. Um, but that's a great question about, like, I think for the audience watching, it was the bodybuilding channel on Instagram that, was kind of blowing the whistle on female bodybuilding just doesn't have enough financially backing it, and it doesn't. And it's been like that, I feel like, for years when they took, uh, female bodybuilding out of the Olympia, and I think there was a reason for that, and it's I think it was financial because it just wasn't bringing enough in, um, and I think and and I know people are gonna have split, you know, takes on this because it's just, yes, it's bodybuilding. Yes, that people should be able to push themselves the way they want, but at the same time, you need a financial backing. You need something to, to make the industry. We can't really blame just the industry either because you know, it's still an organization. It still has to make money off of what it's doing. So we can't really be like, oh, they're pushing this when they should be pushing this. They're just trying to make money off of it, like just like any other organization would. So it's like, what is the right answer? Do we let the athletes be as extreme as they want at the sake of probably and possibly losing fans that are just not into it? It's not appealing to them anymore. Or, do we make it more appealing and try to get, people interested in it again? I lean more towards the um, making it more not that I want to make it like mainstream. I don't. It's never going to be mainstream, but more appealing. Yes, absolutely. I think that there's way too much drugs in it right now. Not saying that I am not natural. I'm not saying that I oppose drugs, but I think the amounts that some of the people are taking, um, some of the women are taking, is just it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah, there's an absolute difference between taking like low levels of, multiple of them if you're taking more than one, or and then taking stuff that would like kill an elephant basically, which is some people I've talked to and I'm like, how are you still alive? How are you still functioning as a person? So yeah, that as well. And I do think they need a little bit more of a mainstream approach because yeah, you basically need a female Arnold basically, which is, it's going to be very rare to get, but it's also too, you got to be able to just look at it and say like, this is something that we got to sell. But again, I have nothing against anyone that competes right now or does anything like that. They're all great athletes and competitors, but yeah, I mean, yeah, I got some flack back as well from that, and it's like, hey, that's just my opinion. Like I said, I'm a guy that's never competed and never will, so don't take my word for it as the gospel. Basically, it's just my thoughts on it. But yeah, it's just I'd like to see where it comes eventually on the circle because yeah, like you said, they do need financial backing, and I just think more people are so much more closeted fans that I think really need to just come out and just support it more than just supporting it behind everyone's back, like in a corner, just watching videos and stuff. People need to be more active with it too.
Yeah. Yeah. But also we need to give them something that they want
Yeah.
to see, you know? Um, like I've had a couple, I'm not gonna say who
Yeah.
it is, but um a couple people say that, you know, uh, what the girls now are taking at the Olympia is, you know, they're all taking trend, which may or may not be true. I don't know. Um,
Oh, at the very least, I would say that's got to be like the lowest of those they're taking, from what I've heard at least.
yeah, and they tried to talk me into it because they were like, "Hey, you know, that's what brought this person to the next level." And like, yeah, I've done, you know, obviously I've done some stuff. I've never done trend, and I that's something I refuse to do. I have enough side effects as it is from the things that I did take in the past, um, and I'm not willing to sacrifice anymore to appease a certain look. Because personally, I don't like the hard looks that the women are bringing today. I just don't like. That's just my opinion, and I'm not saying that's the right opinion. I like the look of, I think Miss Pretty Muscles, Andrea Shaw, she's the perfect example of, you know, but she's very rare. She's very rare physique where she's very pretty. She's got great skin and but she's still very muscular. I personally don't like the super shredded, hard, like I I, I don't think it's pretty. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, trust me, I also agree with you. I won't get too much into it because I don't want to lose half the followers here just by saying like, oh, he doesn't really. It's like, no, it's a personal preference. Everyone's had. I'll have whoever I want to have on, and I'll have any type of body shape on. I really, don't care. But like, you're a natural beauty. I'm just gonna say it, everyone. No, I'm not hitting on her, everyone. I'm just admitting the truth right there. Like I told her before, it's like they need a beauty like you in the sport really to really just help broadcast it. But is it hard for you to find that balance of still maintaining your feminine beauty and not, going overboard? Because there's so much temptation in this sport.
Yeah. Thank you for that, by the way. That was really nice. So, like, I will say that is it tempting to, you know, take this person's advice, you know, and just be like, okay, I'm gonna take trend and see if it takes me to the next level, see if it just makes my physique insane. And there is a small part of me that is like, what if? But at the same time, like I know now, like it did take a while to adjust to like what my body can tolerate as far as, you know, usage or whatever. I don't know if we can talk freely about this, but I'll try to.
I never try to ask questions really like that because like it's different for everyone and everyone's. I always tell people it's none of my business. That's why I never. The moment that you brought it up, I was like, oh, okay, I can ask a few questions about it, but I never
Oh
bring it
yeah,
up specifically myself. Yeah.
as long as no one's getting in trouble, I will talk freely about this. And honestly, there there have been compounds that obviously, you know, unfortunately, my voice changed. Um, in the past, I had a coach that wasn't telling me what I was taking. It was like, here, take this, this, and this. Uh, Never told me what it could do. And that's when I initially got side effects, unfortunately. But since then, since being with Shelby, and
Oh, the
he's
cops are coming to arrest her, everyone.
oh, I just heard that.
She
That
started
was
talking
perfect.
about it.
That was the perfect
Yeah.
timing. Um, but Shelby, in my opinion, I know other people have different opinions, but in my opinion, Shelby is always more reserved, and he always goes about it. It's like, what are you comfortable taking? What are you comfortable with? And so I'll tell him there's two compounds that do really well for me, and I know if something's um too much for me, my skin is the first thing to show. Like I'll start getting breakouts and stuff, and so I know I try to get the most out of the least. I'm not going to go into exactly what that is because I don't.
Absolutely.
One, I don't want to get in trouble, and two, I don't want people to try to, you know, take this as advice because it's not advice.
Take gorilla testosterone, everyone. It works. Yeah, that's the official sponsor of the podcast. Yeah. So yeah.
But so there's some things that have never really given me like I'll watch it. I have other people that will say, hey, if I'm starting to get a side effect that I don't realize, you know, they'll be like, hey, I think you should pull back or whatever. But train is one of those things that I will never touch. Like even though it is kind of tempting in the sense that I'm like, well, I might just look like a freaking ninja turtle if I took it,
Yeah.
right?
No, absolutely.
um, but that's one of the I think that's one of the lines that I draw that I'm like, okay, I don't want, you know, things to change any more than they already have. I'm gonna stick with what works for me. I'm gonna stick with as low of a dose that I can, realistically get, benefits from, but also not take it too far, you know?
I mean, if this is too personal, I understand, but I just want to ask two questions about your voice just because I found that fascinating. Because, like, I remember the first time we had you on, you were just like, yeah, people might be commenting about my voice. It's like, no one really cares. And then obviously, like, two people commented on it. And I was like, really? People care? People care that much? But I just wanted to ask, when did you first start to see it change? And what was that like dealing with that? Because that's a big thing, especially for a female when the voice starts to change. How did you deal with that?
So I didn't even it's weird because I didn't even realize it. I felt like I kept because to me in my head I don't sound any different than, before I took things. I used to sound exactly like my twin sister. Um, but so I don't realize how much it's changed until I hear it back, and then I'm like, "Oh." Um, but so it just felt initially it just felt like I had to clear my throat a lot. And it still kind of feels like that. I do know that so I've actually been to a vocal specialist, because I actually have damaged vocal cords, and I don't think it's from the gear, I think it's from when I was a kid. I used to get strep throat a lot, and so I actually on top of the gear changing it sounds I do need to eventually get it fixed because what I was told was, like, I can't remember the name of it, but something's not closing all the way, and I actually do have physical damage to it as well, so it's kinda like a double whammy there, but yeah, I didn't realize it. I didn't realize how much it changed, and it happened really fast, and I can't tell you what I was taking because, like I said, that coach that I had way before Shelby, way before any of this was just like, "Hey, you wanna get jacked, take this," and I was doing what I was told, unfortunately.
Well, that's why I love your story because I remember you said that before, and it's like people need to hear that too. It's like don't just blindly follow, because I feel
No.
like I have so many tragic stories where especially they're like in their teens or their early 20s, and they just blindly just take whatever they're asked, and then yeah, they suffer through the side effects. But this is a question just because I am a very curious person. What is that reaction like when you're that short and then you start talking to people, and then people are like, okay, I did not expect your voice to be like that. How's that been?
Um, that's only happened a couple times. Yeah, I don't get too much like, I don't know if people are just being nice or whatever, but usually people don't say anything about it. Um, I've had that happen once where I was talking I can't remember where I was, but, this woman asked me something, and she was like, "Sorry, I wasn't expecting, that to come out of that this short little girl," and I was like, "Oh, thanks,
Well, the
I
thing is,
guess."
it's not even that bad. I mean, I've had some guests on where they're like, "Hey, Ryan," and it's like, yeah, but it's like it's not even that bad. I only asked that last question because I have the opposite effect myself, where I'm 6'3" and I have a higher pitched voice than normal. So it's like you might have to tell me actually. You might have to find out what you were on. Then I just might have to
Oh,
take a little
like
bit of it for me. Good God, because I do need a little bit of a deeper voice for being this tall. It's like that's why I've always said I'm one of the least threatening people ever. Like I could be the most in shape ever, and if you were to meet me in an alley, the moment I open my voice, people were like, "Oh yeah, he's a that's why I just got to be silent and just not even say anything." So yeah, and these are the two questions that I asked you last time. I'm going to ask you these same questions every time I have you on. If you could change one thing about the sport of bodybuilding and everyone would go along with it, we kind of discussed this a little bit, but we could just do the health and fitness category in general, just anything that you want to change and everything would go along with it. What would be one thing you'd like to see changed?
the direction, I think, because I feel like that I have some pretty strong opinions on this, just with all the deaths that have happened in the past couple years. I feel like if this was more of a mainstream sport, this wouldn't be
It would be
like
regulated for sure. Yeah.
yeah, this wouldn't be going on. And I don't like the argument of, "Oh, well, they knew the risk. Oh, well, they knew what they were getting into." I don't think that is a justification for people dying for it. Um, I wish that at whatever level needs to change, that the protocols in order to achieve such a dry, shredded look change because from my understanding, it's really the what's really like causing all these deaths are the dry out process. So the electrolyte manipulation. We know this, we know this is dangerous. Um, the standard, I feel like I wish would change to a healthier standard. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Oh, well, it's bodybuilding; it's supposed to be extreme." Okay, but in extreme at the cost of people's lives, I don't agree with that. And so that's something I really wish would change.
I mean, I always compare it to like the NFL, where some of those guys in the NFL are taking just as much as some of these bodybuilders on the men's side, at least, are taking, just because it's probably not as much, but to a certain level, and it's like it's because it's more regulated, and they, you know, you're not seeing that many people collapse and die on the field unless it was like that last year, which by the way, that was absolutely crazy. I was watching that game live, but it's just, yeah, it's just I do think it needs more regulation. And again, we could be talking here for 15 hours if we want to talk about changes made to bodybuilding. I mean, I one of these days I'm going to have a guest on that I know could talk that long, because I don't know if many people could keep that pace with me, and we will just talk for like 15 hours. We'll start at like 8 a.m. and we'll go till like 11 at night. Then that night, just talking about everything we change. But yeah, until then, and then again, I ask the question every time as well. If when we do have you on a year from now, we're not going to wait a whole year and a half. Where would you like to be at in your bodybuilding? Where would you like to be at just in your personal life? Where would you like to be at in a year?
I would like to have my pro card, um, and I would like to be in some more magazines. I don't know. That's
Any specific magazine that you would want to be in above anything else?
like if Muscle and Fitness is still around, because that's the first magazine I ever saw.
Mhm.
I think it was either Flex magazine or Muscle and Fitness. The first time I ever saw like a real female bodybuilder, and that's what kind of set me on this journey. Is because I didn't know women could be that jacked, and I thought it was so cool. That would be cool to be in the magazine that I originally saw when I was 16
Yeah.
and made me decide to follow this.
If Playboy came to you, would you do it?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, just making. But I'm saying like Sports Illustrated should do something like that, because yeah, like I said, you are the perfect embodiment of like what I think should be marketed. So everyone, if you know anyone that's in the magazine industry, get on them and get them talking, because yeah, it needs to happen, because like yeah, you just need that. All it takes is one person to really, like, you think about like the Corey Eversons and stuff like that. Like, she did so much for the sport. Like, you just need that one person with that one look who can then just promote it and push it. So yeah, that's
Well, thank you, Ryan. That's really sweet.
I appreciate. Well, again, and anytime you need that, I am more than happy to tell you that, because yeah, you're like one of the handful of people that I would be like, okay, you need to like just focus 90% of your attention on them. But yeah, and
Oh,
again, Hannah, I cannot thank you enough for coming on and sharing your journey with us. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, as always, everyone go and give her a follow on her Instagram page. I'll leave a link down below. And what show exactly are you competing at? Where's it at?
it's gonna be Miss International, Chicago, July 22nd. So I'm gonna be doing so the amateur side, because I'm not a pro yet. I believe you can qualify for the pro side, which is
Is that the same weekend as the Chicago Pro, or is that just, or is it
yeah,
part of it? Okay,
yeah.
I
So
might be there. I'm thinking about maybe going, so I might have to see you there
really,
then. I'm thinking about maybe going. It's only a 6 hour drive for me because I'm in Minnesota, so it's yeah. I might show up there. I'm afraid. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of meeting all these other people, though. I'm afraid because
why?
I'll feel so embarrassed by myself. I'll be like, God, I need to hit the gym like right now.
Oh my God, stop!
I'll have to be covered up like this, so like no one can see anything. But no, I'm thinking about going. I'll have to check my calendar and get potential, and like with I'm unemployed right now at the moment, so I'm still looking for a job. So I'll have to, figure that in right now. So yeah, I will definitely look into it, and I will let you and other competitors know. Yeah, like if I do show up, I think it would be great.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, but again, it will be. I will have to get a photo with you where like we just show like the height difference, and I'll just have to be like just use you as
We'll
like a
take a
cane or something
picture.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll have to do something like that. Yeah, that's ridiculous. But yeah, again, Hannah, I wish you nothing but the best, and it's always great having you on. And I really appreciate your honesty and your openness, because these topics need to think be talked about more too. And I love your story, like you said, how you telling people like, hey, be cautious about joining the sport. Now, obviously, if you want to join it if you're really that into it, but you always got to have a grain of caution with it. But again, Hannah, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate talking to you and having you on.
Thank you, Ryan.
Absolutely. Well, this is Ryan Johnson, DD on the spot, signing off. Have a great day, everyone.